The observation deck of the UES Harmony offered the most breathtaking view in the colony fleet. Celeste Moreau pressed her palm against the cool transparisteel window, watching distant stars dance like scattered diamonds across the cosmic canvas. Her reflection stared back a woman of 28, with auburn hair twisted into a practical bun and earth-brown eyes that sparkled with curiosity. Behind her, the gentle hum of the ship's hydroponic gardens provided a soothing soundtrack too. Her thoughts. "Still can't believe we're really out here," whispered Mara Chun-Okafor, joining her friend at the window. The two botanists had known each other since university, bonding over late-night lab sessions and shared dreams of cultivating life on distant worlds. Celeste smiled, her fingers tracing patterns on the glass. 3 years of preparation, and now we're finally heading to Kepler 442b. Think the soil samples were accurate? With your green thumb? You could probably grow roses in asteroid dust, Mira laughed. Besides, the preliminary reports show perfect pH balance and mineral content. It's like the planet was waiting for us. The colony fleet Harmony was one of 15 ships carrying 12,000 hopeful settlers to establish humanity's newest agricultural settlement. Unlike the industrial colonies that focused on mining or manufacturing, Kepler 442b would be humanity's first dedicated farming world, a place where families could work the soil together and build something beautiful from scratch. Captain Nina. Rodriguez's voice echoed through the ship's intercom system. "Attention all passengers. We'll be docking at Nexus Station in 2 hours for diplomatic protocols and final supply checks. All cultural exchange volunteers, please report to Bay 7. Celeste's heart fluttered with nervous excitement. She had signed up for the cultural exchange program months ago, eager to meet alien species and learn about their agricultural techniques. The universe was vast, and humanity was still new to the galactic community. Every interaction was a chance to build bridges. "You're going to do wonderfully," Mira assured her, noting Celeste's suddenly tense shoulders. "Just be yourself. That enthusiasm of yours is infectious." Nexus Station sprawled across space like a metallic flower, its multiple arms extending in all directions to accommodate ships from dozens of different species. As the Harmony docked, Celeste marveled at the variety of vessels surrounding them: sleek Zephyrian exploration ships, massive Corvan freight haulers, and the elegant, crystal-like vessels of the mysterious ethereal collective. Bay 7 buzzed with nervous energy as 30 human volunteers gathered for their briefing. Captain Rodriguez, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and graying temples, addressed the group with practiced calm. "Remember, this is about cultural exchange, not politics. The Galactic Council has been debating human expansion policies, but that's not your concern today. You're here to share our love of growing things and learning from others who do the same." Celeste barely listened to the standard warnings about diplomatic protocols. Her mind was already racing with questions about alien plant life, growing techniques, and the possibility of hybrid crops that could thrive in multiple environments. The station's central hub was a marvel of engineering and diversity. Beings from across the galaxy moved through the vast space, their conversations creating a melodic symphony of translated languages. Celeste's translation earpiece worked overtime, converting clicks, whistles, and harmonics into comprehensible words. She was admiring a display of Corvan crystal flowers when a voice behind her spoke in perfect, unaccented English. "Beautiful, aren't they? Though I suspect you could grow something far more impressive." Celeste turned to find herself facing a tall, slender being with skin that seemed to shimmer between silver and pale blue. His features were humanoid, but refined, with high cheekbones and eyes the color of deep ocean water. When he smiled, she noticed his teeth were perfectly white and slightly sharp. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" she asked, suddenly aware of her heart beating faster. "Kale Viridian," he said, extending a hand in the human custom. My father is Ambassador Theron Viridian of the Zelthari Dominion, and you must be one of the botanists from the colony fleet. His hand was warm and surprisingly soft. Celeste found herself reluctant to let go. Celeste Moreau, how did you know I was a botanist? Cale's smile widened. The way you were looking at those crystal flowers. Most people see them as decoration, but you are studying the structure, the way they channel nutrients. It's the same look I get when I examine soil composition data. You're a botanist too? Celeste felt a thrill of excitement. Xenobotany, actually. I specialize in how different plant species adapt across various atmospheric conditions. Cale gestured toward the bustling hub around them. My father thinks I'm wasting my time with decorative sciences, but I believe understanding how life grows is the key to understanding how different species can coexist. They began walking together, drawn toward the station's famous galactic gardens. The enormous biodome housed plant specimens from hundreds of worlds, creating an impossible rainbow of colors and textures that shouldn't exist in the same space. This is incredible, Celeste breathed, watching a tree with silver bark and leaves that chimed like bells in the artificial breeze. How do they maintain such different atmospheric requirements? Microclimate control, Cale explained, pulling out a handheld scanner. Each section has its own environment bubble. Look here. He showed her the readings. This section maintains the high humidity and sulfur content needed for Vorthic swamp grass. While just 2 meters away, those crystalline formations require completely dry, high radiation conditions. They spent the next hour moving through the gardens, sharing knowledge and marveling at the diversity of life the galaxy offered. Celeste found herself drawn not just to the plants, but to Cale himself. His passion for growing things matched her own, and his gentle manner put her completely at ease. Your species fascinates me, Cale said, as they sat beside a fountain filled with floating water lily that glowed soft blue. Humans have only been spacefaring for 70 years, yet you've already shown such remarkable adaptability. Is that good or bad? Celeste asked, detecting something cautious in his tone. Cale hesitated. My father and others in the Dominion see it as ... concerning. Humans reproduce quickly, adapt easily, and spread faster than most species. There's talk in the Council about implementing expansion guidelines. Guidelines? Limits on how many worlds humans can settle. Restrictions on colony ship routes. Cale's ocean blue eyes met hers. My father believes it's necessary for galactic stability. Celeste felt a chill run down her spine. And what do you believe? I believe, Cale said softly, reaching out to touch one of the glowing lily, that life finds a way to grow, regardless of the barriers others try to place around it. The question is whether we nurture that growth or try to contain it. Their conversation was interrupted by the station's announcement system. All diplomatic personnel and cultural exchange participants, please report to Conference Hall Alpha for the formal reception. As they walked back through the station corridors, Celeste felt a strange mix of excitement and apprehension. This chance meeting with Cale had been wonderful, but his words about restrictions on human expansion worried her. The colony fleet represented the dreams of thousands of families hoping to build new lives among the stars. Will I see you again? She asked as they reached the conference hall entrance. Cale smiled, but there was something sad in his expression. I hope so, though I suspect the coming days will test that hope. He took her hand briefly, his touch sending warmth through her entire body. Celeste Moreau, I hope your plants grow strong on Kepler 442b, and I hope they grow free. As he walked away to join the diplomatic delegation, Celeste watched his retreating figure with a mixture of longing and confusion. She had come to the station expecting to learn about alien agriculture. Instead, she had found something far more unexpected and possibly far more dangerous. The formal reception proceeded with typical diplomatic courtesy, but Celeste barely paid attention to the speeches about cooperation and mutual understanding. Her eyes kept drifting to where Cale sat with the Zelthari delegation. His father's stern features a sharp contrast to his son's gentle demeanor. When Ambassador Theron Viridian took the podium to address the gathering, his words chilled her to the bone. The Galactic Council faces difficult decisions in the coming weeks. The rapid expansion of newer species must be balanced against the stability that older civilizations have worked millennia to achieve. We must ask ourselves, is unlimited growth truly in the galaxy's best interest? As polite applause filled the hall, Celeste caught Cale's eye across the room. The look of apologetic sorrow on his face told her everything she needed to know. The beautiful connection they had forged among the impossible gardens was about to face its first real test. The colony fleet would continue to Kepler 442b as planned, carrying its cargo of hopeful families toward their new home. But Celeste now understood that not everyone in the galaxy welcomed their journey. As she prepared to return to the Harmony, she wondered if the seeds of love she had felt beginning to grow could survive in such uncertain soil. The stars offered no answers, only their eternal, distant light. 3 weeks had passed since the diplomatic exchange at Nexus Station, and Celeste found herself checking her personal communicator with embarrassing frequency. The colony fleet had resumed its journey toward Kepler 442b, but her thoughts remained anchored to a certain Zelthari botanist with ocean blue eyes. "You're doing it again," Mira observed, looking up from the seedling trays they were preparing in Laboratory Bay 3. The ship's agricultural section buzzed with activity as botanists, farmers, and their families worked together to prepare for planetary colonization. "Doing what?" Celeste asked innocently, though her hand was indeed hovering over her communicator. "Staring at that device like it holds the secrets of the universe." Mira grinned and nudged her friend's shoulder. "Still thinking about your mysterious alien." "Botanist?" Before Celeste could deny it, her communicator chimed with an incoming message. Her heart leaped as she saw the sender's identification. Kai, Viridian Personal Encrypted. Celeste, I hope this message reaches you safely. My diplomatic. Access codes allow me to send personal communications to the colony fleet, though I suspect this privilege may not last long. I've been thinking about our conversation in the gardens, and I have something I'd like to share with you. Are you familiar with the resonance bloom of Zelthari Prime? It's a plant that grows only when two different root systems intertwine. Neither can survive alone, but together they create something beautiful. I keep thinking we might be like those plants. Cale attached to the message was a detailed botanical analysis and stunning holographic images of the resonance bloom, a flower that seemed to shift between silver and gold, its petals forming intricate patterns that resembled both human and Zelthari artistic motifs. "Oh, you've got it bad," Myra laughed, reading over Celeste's shoulder. "He's sending you alien love poetry disguised as scientific data." Celeste blushed, but couldn't suppress her smile. "It's not love poetry, it's comparative botany." And I suppose you're going to respond with a purely academic analysis of Earth roses?" Actually, Celeste was already composing her reply, attaching information about Earth's moonflowers, nocturnal blooms that opened only in darkness but filled the night with intoxicating fragrance. Two plants that needed different conditions, but somehow complemented each other perfectly. Over the following days, their secret correspondence blossomed into something deeper than either had expected. They shared not just botanical knowledge, but personal stories, dreams, and fears. Cale wrote about growing up as the son of a prominent diplomat, feeling pressured to follow political paths when all he wanted was to understand how life could flourish across different worlds. Celeste told him about losing her parents in a terraforming accident, and how cultivating life from barren soil had become her way of healing. The council sessions had become more intense. Kale wrote one evening, "My father and his allies grow, more convinced that human expansion must be curtailed. They speak of your species as if you were invasive weeds choking out native plants. I've tried to argue that diversity strengthens ecosystems, but they see only competition, not collaboration. We're not trying to take anything from anyone," Celeste replied. "The families here just want to grow food, raise their children, build something beautiful." Little Elena Vasquez, she's the daughter of one of our agricultural coordinators. She asks me every day if the flowers on our new planet will smell as pretty as the ones in our hydroponic gardens. "Tell me about Elena." Kale wrote back. So Celeste did. She told him about the 8-year-old girl who had appointed herself the colony's unofficial junior botanist, following Celeste around the growing bays with endless questions and infectious enthusiasm. Elena had been orphaned young, but adopted by the Vasquez family, and her joy in discovering new plants had touched everyone's heart. "She sounds wonderful," Kale responded. "I hope she gets to see those flowers bloom." The exchange sent a chill through Celeste. Though she couldn't explain why, their correspondence might have continued indefinitely, growing into something neither quite dared to name. But political events overtook their personal connection. Reports began filtering through diplomatic channels that the Galactic Council was preparing for a decisive vote on human expansion limits. "I have to warn you," Kale's final message read. "The vote is tomorrow. My father's faction has the numbers. They plan to make an example of your colony fleet, force you to return to Earth as proof that humans will accept Council authority. I've tried to change minds, but I'm just one voice against thousands. Please be careful. Whatever happens, know that what we've shared has meant everything to me. Captain Rodriguez gathered the colony fleet's leadership in the main conference room. The mood was tense as she shared intelligence reports about increasing Zelthari military activity along their route. "We have a choice," she announced. "Turn back now and accept Council jurisdiction over human expansion, or continue to Kepler 442b and risk confrontation." The debate that followed was passionate but brief. These families had invested everything in their new life. Children like Elena had grown up hearing stories about their future home. The vote was unanimous. They would continue, but as the fleet pressed onward, strange things began happening. Long-range sensors detected ships shadowing them. Communication arrays suffered mysterious malfunctions. Most disturbing, they began receiving garbled warnings from an unknown source. Fragments of messages that mentioned something called the First Law and urged them to protect the children. In the agricultural bays, life continued with determined normalcy. Celeste threw herself into preparing seed stocks for planetary cultivation, trying to ignore the growing tension. Elena Vasquez remained her faithful shadow, chattering about which vegetables they would plant first and whether alien soil would make tomatoes taste different. "Miss Celeste," Elena asked one afternoon as they tended the seedling nursery, "why do some of the grown-ups look scared? Are we not going to our new planet?" Celeste knelt down to Elena's eye level, smoothing the child's dark hair. "Sometimes grown-ups worry too much. But we're going to make it to our new home, and you're going to help me plant the most beautiful garden the galaxy has ever seen." Elena's face lit up with joy. "Can we plant some of those glowing flowers from the pictures? The ones that look like they're made of starlight?" "We'll try our best," Celeste promised, though her heart ached with uncertainty. The attack came without warning during the colony fleet's quiet period, when most families were sleeping or sharing evening meals. Celeste was in her quarters, composing what she thought might be her final message to Kale. When the first impacts shook the harmony, emergency alarms shrieked through the corridors. Celeste ran toward the agricultural section, knowing that families often gathered there during evening activities. The ship shuddered under repeated impacts, and she could hear the terrifying sound of hull breaches in the distance. She found chaos in the main growing bay. The Zelthari had targeted the ship with surgical precision, striking the areas where families worked and lived together. The hydroponic gardens where children played among the plants had become scenes of horror. Emergency force fields flickered and failed, releasing precious atmosphere into the void. "Elena!" Celeste screamed, searching through the smoke and debris. She found the little girl trapped under a collapsed growing frame, her small body terribly still. Elena's eyes were open but unseeing, her hand still clutching a seedling she had been tending around the growing bay. Other tragedies played out in heartbreaking silence. Parents cradled children who would never again ask questions about flowers. Teachers who had been sharing stories about their new world now floated in the cold vacuum of space. Celeste pulled Elena's body close, tears streaming down her face as she whispered apologies to the little girl who would never see the gardens they had planned together. Through the shattered observation windows, she could see the sleek shapes of Zelthari warships, their weapons still glowing with residual energy. The attack lasted only minutes, but it changed everything. When the surviving colony ships limped toward the nearest safe harbor, they carried not just the wounded, but the transformed. The families who had dreamed of planting gardens among the stars had learned a terrible lesson about the price of hope. In her quarters, Celeste stared at Kale's unanswered messages, his words about resonance blooms and intertwined root systems now seeming like cruel mockery. The communicator showed 17 missed calls from him, growing increasingly desperate. "Celeste, please respond. I tried to stop them. I'm so sorry. My father wouldn't listen. None of them would listen. Please tell me you're alive." She turned off the communicator without responding. Some plants, she had learned, couldn't survive in poisoned soil. And sometimes the very thing you thought might save you was part of what destroyed everything you loved. Elena Vasquez had died, clutching a seedling, still believing in the garden they would plant together. That trust, that pure faith in growing things, had been murdered along with 623 other children, whose only crime was dreaming of flowers among the stars. As the colony fleet prepared to return to Earth, Celeste made a promise over Elena's small grave marker in the ship's memorial garden. The Zelthari had taught humanity that the galaxy was not safe for their children. Now humanity would teach the galaxy why they had been a mistake. Some seeds, after all, only grew in ground watered, by tears and tended by hands that remembered both love and loss. 6 months after the attack, Celeste Moreau sat in her childhood bedroom on Earth, staring at a wilted moonflower she couldn't bring herself to water. The flower had been grown from seeds she'd saved from the Harmony's destroyed hydroponic gardens one of the few living things to survive the massacre that had claimed Elena and so many others. Through her window, she could see the memorial garden that had been planted for the lost colonists. Each white rose represented a child who would never grow up, never ask questions about alien soil, never marvel at flowers blooming under foreign suns. 623 roses, Elena's among them. A soft knock interrupted her brooding. "Celeste, you have a visitor." Jonas Blackwood stood in the doorway, his familiar face creased with worry. They had grown up on the same agricultural commune in Oregon, climbing trees together and sharing dreams of exploring the galaxy's botanical wonders. When she'd left for the colony mission, he'd promised to wait for her return. She just hadn't expected to come back broken. "Hey, stranger," Jonas said gently, settling into the chair beside her bed. His sandy brown hair had grown longer since she'd seen him last, and his green eyes held a warmth she'd almost forgotten existed. "Thought you might want some company that doesn't involve therapists or government debriefings." "I'm not very good company these days," Celeste murmured, not taking her eyes off the dying flower. Good thing I'm not here for entertainment. Jonas reached over and carefully took the moonflower pot from her hands. Mind if I try something? Without waiting for an answer, he moved to her window and began examining the plant with the practiced eye of someone who'd spent his life coaxing life from reluctant soil. She's not dead yet. Just grieving, maybe. Plants do that, you know. They sense when their caretaker is hurting. Everything I touch dies, Celeste whispered. Elena trusted me to keep her safe, to show her those gardens. Instead, I led her to slaughter. Jonas set the plant aside and turned to face her fully. The Zelthari led her to slaughter. You led her to hope, to wonder, to joy in growing things. Don't let them take that from you, too. Before Celeste could respond, her door chimed with an incoming communication. The holographic display showed a face she'd tried so hard to forget ocean blue. Eyes filled with desperate sorrow. Please don't disconnect. Kale's voice was barely above a whisper. I know you hate me. You have every right. But I need you to know that I've been trying to make this right. Jonas's expression hardened as he recognized the alien who had become the subject of so many of Celeste's nightmares. Is this the one whose father... Yes, Celeste said quietly, but she didn't disconnect the call. Kale looked terrible. His usually perfect appearance was disheveled. His silver-blue skin had lost its luminous quality, and there were dark circles under his eyes. I've spent every day since the attack working to expose what really happened. My father's faction covered it up, called it a necessary demonstration of council authority. But I've been gathering evidence, testimonies from other species who witnessed the targeting of civilian families. Why should I care about your guilt? Celeste's voice was flat, emotionless. Because children are still dying. Kale's image flickered as he leaned closer to his communication device. The Council has authorized enforcement actions against 3 more human colony fleets. They're planning to make examples until Earth submits completely to expansion restrictions. Jonas stepped into view of the communicator. And what exactly do you expect us to do about it? Kale's gaze shifted to Jonas and back to Celeste. I have access to Council communications, ship schedules, attack plans. I can help prevent another massacre. But I need someone on the human side who understands that not all aliens supported what happened to your fleet. Get out, Celeste said. Suddenly, just get out of my life. Your guilt doesn't bring Elena back. Your information doesn't undo what your people did. The communication link went dead, leaving the room in heavy silence. Jonas moved closer, his hand hovering uncertainly near Celeste's shoulder. I'm sorry. I know you cared about him. I thought I did. But how do you care about someone whose family murders children? Celeste stood abruptly, pacing to her window. The worst part is, I keep wondering if it was all fake. The botanical discussions, the shared research, the way he made me feel like we could build bridges between species. Maybe it was just intelligence gathering. Or maybe he's exactly what he seemed, and he's drowning in guilt because he couldn't stop monsters who happened to share his DNA, Jonas suggested gently. People aren't responsible for their family's crimes. Celeste turned to stare at him. Since when did you become so wise about interspecies relations? Since I started falling in love with someone whose heart was broken by them. The words hung in the air between them, honest and raw. For the first time in months, Celeste felt something other than numbness or rage. Jonas had been her anchor since childhood, steady and reliable, where the galaxy had proven chaotic and cruel. When she looked at him, she didn't see political complications or species conflicts, just someone who had known her before she became broken. Jonas ... I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly. I just wanted you to know. And I wanted to tell you that whatever you decide to do about this war everyone says is coming, I'll be here. Supporting you, protecting you if I can, or getting out of your way if that's what you need. 3 days later, Celeste found herself in an underground laboratory beneath the ruins of the old Chicago Botanical Gardens. The facility had been repurposed by the Earth Defense Initiative, a civilian organization that had formed in response to the Colony Fleet massacre. Unlike military installations, the ED focused on nonviolent resistance and intelligence gathering. "Are you sure about this?" asked Arya Salas, the grief counselor turned resistance coordinator who had recruited Celeste. Arya was a tall woman with prematurely gray hair and eyes that had seen too much sorrow. She had lost her own daughter in the attack, and now channeled her pain into organizing Earth's quiet response. Celeste nodded, her hands moving over the botanical samples she'd been cultivating. The Zelthari physiology is similar enough to human that most Earth-based toxins will affect them, but different enough that I can create compounds that are specifically tailored to their biology. These are meant to incapacitate, not kill, right? Arya's voice carried a note of concern. "The beauty of botanical compounds is their flexibility," Celeste replied, not quite answering the question. "Dosage and delivery method determine effect. A small amount might cause temporary paralysis. A larger amount—" She shrugged. Jonas, who had insisted on accompanying her despite the dangers, looked uncomfortable. "Celeste, I know you're hurting, but this isn't you. You're the woman who cried when we accidentally killed a spider in your greenhouse." "That woman died with Elena," Celeste said without looking up from her work. "What you're looking at now is someone who understands that predators only respond to strength." Over the following weeks, Celeste threw herself into her dark botany with the same passion she'd once reserved for nurturing life. She developed compounds derived from Earth's most toxic plants, modified and concentrated for maximum effectiveness against Zelthari physiology. The irony wasn't lost on her that she was using the same scientific knowledge Kale had admired to create weapons against his people. The first test came when a Zelthari diplomatic ship docked at Luna Station for routine trade negotiations. The ship's environmental systems were infiltrated with microscopic spores that would activate only in the presence of Zelthari pheromones. Within hours, the entire crew was unconscious, their ship drifting powerless in space. No one died, but the message was clear. Humans were no longer the helpless prey the Zelthari had thought them to be. "It's working," Arya reported during their next meeting. "The Council is confused and frightened. 3 more Zelthari outposts have gone silent under mysterious circumstances. They can't figure out how we're doing it." But Celeste found no satisfaction in the success. Each victory felt hollow, tainted by the knowledge that she was becoming something she'd never wanted to be. Worse, Jonas's worried glances and careful words made it clear that even those who loved her were beginning to fear what she was becoming. The breaking point came when Kale tried one more time to reach her. His message was brief and desperate. "My cousin Vera is leading a peace faction within the Zelthari government. She wants to meet with human representatives to negotiate a ceasefire. Please, Celeste, let me help stop this before it destroys both our species." Jonas found her that night in the laboratory, surrounded by samples of increasingly lethal botanical compounds. "You're not sleeping. You're barely eating. This obsession is killing you." "Good," Celeste muttered, adjusting the concentration of a particularly virulent extract. "Maybe when I'm gone, Elena can finally rest." Jonas moved around the lab table and gently took the vial from her hands. "Elena loved you because you showed her wonder, not because you were willing to kill for her. If she could see you now, do you think she'd be proud?" The question hit Celeste like a physical blow. She could almost see Elena's bright face, her infectious enthusiasm for growing things, her trust that the universe was fundamentally good and full of beautiful possibilities. "I can't stop," Celeste whispered. "If I stop, what was the point of any of it? What was the point of her death? Maybe the point isn't revenge, Jonas said softly. Maybe the point is making sure no other little girl dies the way Elena did. And maybe that means talking to people like Kale's cousin instead of poisoning them. For the first time since the attack, Celeste broke down completely. 6 months of rage, grief, and guilt poured out of her in great, wrenching sobs. Jonas held her as she wept for Elena, for the garden they would never plant together, for the innocent woman she had been before learning how cruel the galaxy could be. When the tears finally stopped, Celeste felt empty, but somehow cleaner. "I don't know how to trust again," she admitted. "I don't know how to believe that anyone means what they say." "You don't have to trust everyone," Jonas said, stroking her hair. "Just start with the people who've earned it. The ones who stood by you, even when you became someone scary." Outside the laboratory windows, the memorial roses swayed in earths. Evening breeze. 623 white blooms, each one a reminder of love lost and innocence destroyed. But also, Celeste realized, each one a reminder that beauty could grow even in the darkest soil, tended by hands that remembered both sorrow and hope. Elena had died believing in gardens among the stars. Maybe it was time for Celeste to decide whether that dream would die with her, or whether something new and beautiful could still grow from the ashes of tragedy. The choice, like the seeds in her laboratory, was hers to nurture or destroy.